Hello and welcome back to another inspiring episode here, Decode Your English. I'm so thrilled you're joining me today. Thank you for carving out this time to learn, grow, and explore with us. This episode isn't just about sharpening your English skills, it's about diving into ideas that help us connect, thrive, and live more meaningfully. So, if you're someone who wants to speak English with confidence and communicate in a way that truly resonates, you're in exactly the right place. Today, we're diving into a topic that touches every part of our lives: effective communication. You've probably heard this phrase thrown around in meetings, classrooms, or self-help books. But what does it really mean? And why does it matter so much? Effective communication is more than just speaking clearly or choosing the right words. It's about connecting with others, sharing your ideas authentically, and listening in a way that builds trust and understanding. It's the bridge between your thoughts and the world around you. Think about it. Have you ever walked away from a conversation feeling like you weren't heard? Or maybe you said something that didn't land the way you intended, or perhaps you felt that spark when a conversation flows perfectly, leaving you energized and understood. Those moments, good or bad, are shaped by how we communicate. And here's the kicker: most of us never stop to think about how we communicate or how we can do it better. Have you ever felt frustrated after a talk with someone, unsure why it went wrong? Or maybe you've stayed quiet when you wanted to speak up, and it left you feeling small. Those are signs that your communication could use a little love. In this episode, we're going to unpack what effective communication really is and why it's a game changer for your relationships, your work, and even your confidence. You'll learn practical ways to speak clearly, listen deeply, and connect in a way that feels true to you. I'll share personal stories, real-life examples, and questions to help you reflect, and, of course, you'll be practicing your English, the kind of natural, heartfelt English that helps you shine in real conversations. So, let me ask you, have you ever had a moment where you knew you could have said something better, but you didn't know how? Don't worry, we've all been there. By the end of this episode, you'll feel more equipped to express yourself and more confident in your English. So, take a deep breath, settle in, and let's dive into the art of effective communication. What is effective communication, really? Let's start with a simple question. What is effective communication, really? It's a term we hear all the time, but it can feel a bit vague, like a buzzword that sounds important but hard to pin down. Here's the truth. Effective communication is about creating understanding. It's about sharing your thoughts, feelings, and ideas in a way that others can grasp and feeling heard in return. It's not just about what you say, but how you say it and how well you listen when others speak. Think of communication like a dance. If one person moves too fast or steps on the other's toes, the rhythm falls apart. But when both people are in sync, listening, responding, and moving together, it's beautiful. Effective communication is that dance. It's about clarity, empathy, and connection. It's the foundation of every meaningful relationship, whether with a friend, a colleague, or even yourself. Here's another way to look at it. Imagine you're building a bridge to someone else. The stronger and clearer that bridge, the easier it is for your ideas to cross over and for theirs to reach you. If the bridge is shaky, full of misunderstandings, assumptions, or distractions, the connection breaks down. Effective communication builds that strong bridge. It helps you navigate tough conversations, inspire others, and even resolve conflicts without leaving scars. Let me share some examples to make this concrete. One key part of effective communication is clarity. If you value clarity, you probably feel frustrated when someone rambles or leaves you guessing what they mean. Another aspect is empathy, understanding how the other person feels and showing it in your words or tone. Some people prioritize confidence in their communication, speaking boldly and directly, while others value kindness, choosing words that uplift rather than hurt. There's also active listening, which is just as important as speaking. If you're a great listener, You make others feel valued, even if you don't say much. Now, here's something interesting. Communication styles vary across cultures, just like values do in some cultures. Directness is prized. People say exactly what they mean, no sugarcoating. In others, indirect communication is the norm, where people use hints or polite phrases to avoid conflict. Neither is right or wrong, they're just different. For example, in many Western countries, being straightforward is seen as confident. But in some Asian or collectivist cultures, preserving harmony might take priority. So people communicate more subtly. Even generations communicate differently. Older generations might value formal language, while younger ones lean toward casual, expressive styles. These differences can cause misunderstandings if we're not aware of them. So, why does this matter? Because when you understand what effective communication is, you start to see it as a skill you can grow. It's not something you're born with, it's something you practice. And the more you practice, the easier it becomes to connect with others, express yourself, and feel confident in your voice. Let me ask you, have you ever felt misunderstood in a conversation? Like your words just didn't land? Or maybe you've admired someone who seems to always know the right thing to say. Those moments are clues to what effective communication can do. Stay with me, because we're about to explore why this skill is so powerful in everyday life, why effective communication matters in real life. Now that we've defined effective communication, let's talk about why it matters not just in theory, but in the messy, beautiful reality of everyday life. Communication isn't just words floating in the air. It shapes your relationships, your career, your self-esteem, and even how you see the world. Every time you speak, listen, or choose silence, you're communicating something, and those choices ripple out, affecting how others see you and how you feel about yourself. Let's take a simple example. Imagine someone who values connection. They love building relationships and making others feel seen. But if they're in a job where they're always rushed, barking orders, or stuck in impersonal emails, they might start to feel drained. The job might pay well, but something feels off. Why? Because their communication style, warm, personal, and engaging, doesn't match their environment. Over time, they might feel disconnected or unmotivated, even if they can't pinpoint why. That's why understanding how you communicate is so important. It helps you make choices that align with who you are. When your words, tone, and listening habits reflect your true self, life feels more authentic. You feel like you, not a version of yourself molded to fit someone else's expectations. Let me share a personal story. A few years ago, I was in a meeting where I had to present an idea to a group of colleagues. I'd prepared everything perfectly, the slides, the data, the talking points. But when I started speaking, I rushed through it, nervous about how I'd be judged. People looked confused, and the discussion fell flat. I left feeling deflated, like I'd failed. Later, I realized my mistake. I wasn't being myself. One of my strengths is connecting with people through stories and warmth. But in that moment, I leaned on dry facts and a stiff tone. It didn't feel right because it wasn't me. Once I understood that, I started preparing differently, not just the content, but how I'd share it. I focused on being clear, engaging, and true to my style. The next presentation, night and day, people listened, asked questions, and even thanked me afterward. That's the power of communicating in a way that feels authentic. Effective communication also helps you set boundaries. Let's say you value respect, but you're in a situation where someone constantly interrupts you. If you don't speak up, you might feel resentful. But using clear, respectful communication, like calmly saying, "I'd like to finish my thought," can protect what matters to you. It's not about being aggressive, it's about being honest. Here's the thing, poor communication doesn't always feel bad right away. You might stay in a job where you're not heard, or in a friendship where you're always misunderstood. And it takes time to realize why you're unhappy. That's why self-awareness is key. The more you notice how you feel during conversations, the easier it is to spot what's working and what's not. Let me ask you, have you ever left a conversation feeling drained or frustrated, even if nothing bad happened? Or maybe you felt energized after talking with someone who really got you? Those feelings are signals. They tell you when your communication is aligned with who you are and when it's not. In the next part, we'll explore what happens when your communication doesn't align with your goals or values. Because sometimes the discomfort we feel is a clue that we're not expressing ourselves the way we want. So don't go anywhere. We're diving deeper in just a moment. Signs your communication isn't aligned. So far, we've talked about what effective communication is and why it's so important. Now, let's ask a tougher question. What happens when your communication doesn't align with who you are or what you want? When your words, tone, or listening habits don't match your values or goals, you feel it, maybe not immediately, but over time, something starts to feel off. One common sign is frustration. If you're constantly misunderstood or feel like you're talking to a wall, it can wear you down. For example, imagine you value honesty, but you're in a workplace where people dodge tough conversations or sugarcoat the truth. You might feel irritated or disconnected, even if the job itself is fine. That frustration is a signal that your communication isn't aligning with your values. Another sign is exhaustion. Poor communication can be draining. If you're always filtering your words to please others or avoiding conflict, it takes energy. You might feel like you're performing, not connecting. Burnout can creep in when you're spending too much mental energy trying to be someone you're not. Then there's inner conflict. This is when your head says one thing, but your heart says another. Maybe you agree to something to keep the peace, but inside, you're screaming, "This isn't me." That tension comes from communicating in a way that doesn't reflect your true self. Let me share another story. Early in my career, I worked with someone who was brilliant but intimidating. I wanted to impress them, so I stayed quiet in meetings. Even when I had ideas, I thought it was the smart thing to do. But every time I left those meetings, I felt smaller, like I'd betrayed myself. It wasn't until I started speaking up respectfully, but honestly, that I felt like myself again. That shift wasn't easy, but it was worth it. Here's a question for you. Have you ever walked away from a conversation wishing you'd said something different? Maybe you held back, or maybe you said too much and regretted it. Those moments are clues. They show you where your communication might be out of sync with who you are. The good news, once you notice these signs, you can start to change. You don't have to overhaul everything at once. Small adjustments like pausing to choose your words or really listening instead of planning your race can make a big difference. In the next part, we'll talk about how to discover your own communication style and make it work for you. Stay with me. This is where things get practical. How to discover your communication style. Know that we've explored why communication matters and what it feels like when it's off. Let's get to the good stuff. How do you discover your own communication style? This isn't about copying someone else's charisma or memorizing perfect phrases. It's about finding a way to express yourself that feels natural and effective. Discovering your communication style is like uncovering your core values. It takes reflection, curiosity, and honesty. One great way to start is by journaling. Write about a time when you felt confident in a conversation. What were you saying? How were you saying it? Were you calm and clear, or passionate and animated? Those moments hold clues to your natural style. Another method is to reflect on high and low points in your communication. Think of a time when a conversation went really well. Maybe you explained something clearly, made someone laugh, or resolved a conflict. What made that moment work? Now think of a time when a conversation flopped. Maybe you felt misunderstood or came on too strong. What was missing? These highs and lows reveal what feels authentic to you. Here's a quick activity you can try right now. Think of 3 conversations where you felt proud of how you expressed yourself. Maybe it was a heartfelt talk with a friend, a presentation at work, or even a moment when you stood up for yourself. Why did those moments feel good? Were you being clear, kind, confident, or something else? Those qualities are part of your communication style. Let me share a personal example. When I was younger, I thought I had to be loud and assertive to be heard. But over time, I noticed I felt most confident when I spoke calmly, with stories and examples that connected with people. That realization helped me lean into my strengths instead of trying to be someone I was and single quotes t. You can also look at people you admire. Think of someone whose communication style you respect, a teacher, a colleague, or even a public figure. What do you like about how they speak or listen? Those qualities might reflect what you value in communication. Here's a tip. Don't try to force a style that doesn't fit you. If you're naturally quiet, you don't need to be the loudest person in the room. If you're expressive, you don't need to tone it down to seem professional. Your style is unique, and it's most effective when it's authentic. Start small, focus on one or two qualities you want to strengthen, like clarity or empathy. Over time, you'll build a style that feels like home. In the next part, we'll talk about the challenges of communicating authentically in a world full of expectations. Because even when you know your style, it's not always easy to stick to it. Stay with me, we're getting to the heart of it. Common challenges in communicating authentically. Let's be real. Communicating authentically and always easy. You might know your style and want to express yourself clearly, but the world doesn't always make it simple. There are pressures, fears, and expectations that can pull you away from your true voice. One big challenge is people pleasing. Maybe you value kindness, but you take it too far and avoid saying anything that might upset someone. That can lead to staying silent when you need to speak up or agreeing when you don't mean it. It's hard to break the habit, especially if you're worried about conflict. Another challenge is fear of judgment. Maybe you have a bold idea, but you hold back because you're afraid of sounding silly. Or maybe you want to be direct, but you worry people will think you're rude. That fear can make you shrink your voice, even when you have something valuable to say. Then there's the pressure to conform. In some settings like a formal workplace or a new social group, you might feel like you have to change how you communicate to fit in. Maybe you soften your opinions or use jargon you don't like. Over time, that can make you feel disconnected from yourself. Let me share a story. A few years ago, I joined a team where everyone spoke in a very polished, corporate way. I tried to match their style using big words and avoiding personal stories, but it felt like wearing someone else's clothes. I wasn't connecting with anyone, and I wasn't enjoying my work. When I started bringing my real self to conversations using stories, humor, and a warmer tone, things changed. People responded better, and I felt more confident. It wasn't perfect, but it was me. Here's the question. Have you ever felt like you had to hide your real voice to fit in? What did that feel like? Those moments show you where you're compromising and where you can start reclaiming your authentic communication. The good news is you don't have to be perfect. You'll make mistakes, say the wrong thing, stumble over words, or misread someone. That's okay. Growth comes from noticing those moments and trying again. In the next part, we'll talk about how to put effective communication into action with small, practical steps. Living your communication style. Small steps. Big impact. Knowing your communication style is one thing, living it is another. The good news, you don't need to overhaul your life or become a master orator overnight. Effective communication grows through small, intentional steps that add up over time. Let's say you value clarity. That might mean pausing before you speak to organize your thoughts or checking in with someone to make sure they understood you. If empathy is your strength, it could mean asking someone how they're feeling before jumping into a solution. If confidence is your goal, try speaking up in a meeting. Even if it's just one sentence, here's a story from a listener. She realized she valued connection, but was always too shy to start conversations at work. So, she made a small change. Every day, she'd ask one colleague a simple question, like, "How was your weekend?" Over time, those small chats built stronger relationships, and she felt more comfortable speaking up. Try this. Pick one aspect of communication you want to improve, like listening, being direct, or staying calm. Then choose one small action to practice today. Maybe it's really listening to a friend without interrupting. Maybe it's saying, "I don't understand. Can you explain?" instead of nodding along. Small steps create big ripples. Here's a reminder: progress, not perfection. You'll stumble sometimes, and that's okay. Every time you try, you're building a stronger, more authentic voice. In the next part, we'll wrap up with some reflective questions to help you take this further. Questions for personal reflection. Oh, let's slow down and reflect. Asking yourself the right questions can unlock clarity and help you grow as a communicator. If you can, take a moment to sit quietly. If you're on the move, that's fine, just stay present. Later, write these questions down and revisit them when you have time. Let them sink in without judgment. What kind of communicator do I want to be? Think about how you want to show up in conversations: clear, kind, confident. Why does that matter to you? When do I feel most confident in my communication? Recall moments when your words flowed or you felt heard. What were you doing? What made it work? Where am I holding back in my communication? Are there situations where you stay quiet or change your voice to fit in? How does that feel? What's one small step I can take this week to communicate more authentically? Maybe it's speaking up, listening better, or being kinder to yourself when you make mistakes. Who inspires me as a communicator? And why? Think of someone whose style you admire. What qualities do they have that you want to embody? These questions aren't tests, they're invitations to know yourself better. Take your time, write, think, or talk them over with someone you trust. Your answers will guide you toward a stronger, truer voice. Closing thoughts as we wrap up today's episode. Let's pause to reflect on our journey. We started with a simple question: what is effective communication? From there, we explored how it's more than words, it's the bridge that connects you to others and to yourself. We talked about why it matters, how it shapes your life, and what it feels like when it's out of alignment. We dug into discovering your communication style and the challenges of staying authentic in a noisy world, and we ended with questions to help you reflect and grow. Thank you for being here, for listening, and for showing up for yourself. Learning English isn't just about grammar or vocabulary, it's about finding your voice and using it to connect with the world. You're not just improving your language, you're growing as a person. That's powerful. Here's the final thought: when you communicate authentically, you create space for real connection. You build trust, inspire others, and feel more like yourself. So keep practicing, keep reflecting, and keep trusting your voice. If this episode resonated, listen again with a notebook, share it with a friend, or follow Decode Your English for more episodes that help you grow your English and yourself. Until next time, take care, stay curious, and keep speaking your truth.